Oh, maybe that's it. Can you hear me now? That's probably it. See, we don't know what our doing.
Well, you don't.
Yeah,
I solved it pretty quick.
yes, you did. And you're not even a tech guy.
Yeah. So they were shoveling their snow and stacking it up in front of his driveway.
Okay.
And, you know, that gives people that are always bickering, that gives him an excuse to bicker. So I think he called them scummy. Then they went off on him. Guy called him a pussy, said he was going to make his life miserable.
Yeah.
And the guy goes in, gets a gun, walks out and points it at the couple. And the woman walks up and starts screaming,
"Put it away."
No, go ahead. Go ahead. So when you pull a gun, even if he didn't plan on shooting him at that point, and then he gets challenged, he kind of has to pull the trigger at that point.
I don't know if he kind of has to pull the trigger.
Well, he had to.
Well, it seemed like he did.
But yeah, and then so a lot of things went wrong. The woman shouldn't have said. The woman should have kept her mouth shut. So everybody should have kept their mouth shut. She got them killed.
Well, okay, go ahead.
This is my theory. She got them killed because she agitated the situation and said, "Go ahead, do it."
So rather than de-escalating, she escalated.
And I would give any of the listeners advice: if someone ever pulls a gun on you, just run in a zigzagging fashion. Don't even try to de-escalate; just run.
Because I believe the husband said, "Put that fucking thing away" or something like that.
And she was screaming, "Do it!" She was daring the guy to shoot them, and then he started shooting at them, and they didn't move.
Yeah, so
he got hit.
So that I heard people saying certain things about that, and that I don't quite. Who knows? They might have been just like frozen in fear, or just so. Yeah. Like this isn't real. They're like he shot at me 4 times. It hasn't hit me, so they must not be real bullets.
Yeah.
Who knows what's going through their head? But I did a little research on the gentleman himself. I forget his name that murdered and then killed himself. And I was reading his obituary. His family, is having like a funeral.
Triple murderer.
Well, I don't know. Can you murder yourself, or is it like suicide?
Suicide is.
Yeah. So anyway, he Villanova degree from Villanova, the master's degree in some sort of engineering, was in the Navy, Army Reserve. So not a guy that wasn't used to basic training, trained on marksmanship, guns. I think usually when someone is in their 40s and they're single and they don't talk about an ex-wife or kids, there might have been something going. Maybe he was a loner, or he could have had some issues with his sexuality, right? And these neighbors knew that. This is what I'm saying. Like the years of like them messing with him came to a head. And who knows? Maybe they said certain things to him about what they perceived his sexuality to be, right? This is where I see all this kind of pent up violence and aggression from him coming out. Mm-hmm. And then he was over it. And when he's standing over the guy, he's like, "Who's a fucking pussy now?" or whatever he said. It was,
he felt emasculated by, like I said, I think we're kind of agreeing. He felt emasculated by what the woman said.
But I think it was a history of that. Mm-hmm. That wasn't the first day that they've emasculated this dude, that they've taken some power away from him. And he decided that was the day that he's reclaiming some sort of power.
Yeah. I mean, I didn't, the lesson to be learned from that, there's a lot of them, is like, it doesn't pay to argue with your neighbors because you're going to be living next to them.
So there's 2 things. There's 2 ways you deal with your neighbors. Either you ignore them or you're friendly with them. Right. One or 2 ways. Like the antagonistic thing is, there is no in between. Otherwise, like I don't get what was going on. But he shoots them. Then he goes back in the house and gets his AR-15.
Terrible shot, but very committed to killing.
Yes. Them. Yeah. Yes. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And the other thing that is crazy is how, like, I always think about this, like how weak the human body is, but also how like
strong it is.
Insanely strong it is. Like she got shot like a few times in the head and body and was still
moving or
talking and moving.
We watched the video today of the guy walking the cop down and shot 6 or 7 times
12
and kept
times in the chest
and kept walking
and then fell.
Yeah.
It's crazy. But yeah, that video it wasn't the most violent video, but it was one of the most shocking.
Yeah, I think chilling would be the word that I would use, but it was.
Also, you just never know what somebody else is going through. So when you like, those people were like, "Fuck this guy, he's a jerk."
Right.
He's like, I'm going to kill these people.
One day.
Two people are in completely different
And-
levels.
And what it looked like, it wasn't that and hopefully we'll get to learn more about this one day, right? It was like one of those things that he took their shit every day and never did anything about it.
Yeah.
And now it went from, it was binary with him. Either he was not going to kill them or he was going to kill them, right? Like those are just like the two spaces he was in. Very sad. And the thing that really
It didn't make me sad.
so what makes me sad is that they left a 15-year-old son with autism now that doesn't have his main caregivers if he needs a lot of care. Right. That beefing with a neighbor was more important than their son, than their life. Right. That's the part that to me is sad.
That's crazy. And I'm basically like what you said. I'm either friendly with people or I ignore them. If somebody wants to argue with me, it's not going to happen. I'll just walk away.
No, then it's not worth it.
Especially like traffic stuff. Like I've had people flip me off in traffic or yell at me or fucking cut me off, anything like that. It's just right.
Yeah, I've only, I don't know if this ever happened to you, but I've only had one bout of road rage that I can remember. Like literally.
Oh, I get road rage all the time.
No, like road rage where I got cut off by somebody. I was in the car. My oldest son was with me. He was still little at the time. And the guy turns and laughs at me. And I must have followed him for 4 miles at like 80 to 100 miles an hour, like screaming I was going to kill him until like my heart rate settled a little bit. And I wasn't in this state of shock.
Well, it's interesting because you're probably that mad because he put your son's life in danger.
Yes.
And then you proceed to put your son's life in danger.
Right. Yeah, exactly. But I felt like he was safe in the cocoon of my driving. Right. Yeah. So, yeah, that was, man, sad that it occurred, right? There's a lot of families, there's a lot of lives that were unnecessarily lost. People could have handled things a lot differently and a lot better.
Well, maybe they had to die to teach everybody else what. Maybe that'll cut down on the amount of people that get in arguments with their neighbors.
Well, that's probably true.
It'll look on the bright side.
Yeah, this is really bad. So, the other thing that I sometimes, you don't have this problem because you live in a suburban, I would call this like a little hamlet, like a little suburban hamlet.
This is a great street. Basically, nobody comes down the street that doesn't live on it or is delivering something to somebody that lives here. There's no real traffic down here.
Okay.
So when I sit out on the porch sometimes and just, spy on my neighbors.
Okay.
And I don't see it. Nobody drives by.
So that's great. I live on a very well-traveled street. So there's people. The nice thing about that is you have anonymity because there's nobody going by. I have anonymity because there's tons, because everybody's going by, So I live in South Philly and people shovel out their spots. And one of the things that they do, some people that are terrible human beings, is they save the spot that they've shoveled out, where I think it is I know our buddy Kai Serm from Burning the Boats podcast and also like a real friend, his thing is the shopping carts.
Yeah.
Right. Like if you don't put the shopping cart back, it is really like an indicator of what type of person you are. For me, the huge indicator is if you shovel your spot out and then save it for 8 to 10 hours, you are the biggest dirtbag that's ever existed.
Right. Somebody should come up with an app for people that live in South Philly. It could cure all the parking problems.
Huh? Yeah. So
nice.
we're getting some interaction on Facebook. Well, I don't know. We got Nicky Pap's moral dilemma is does he continue to watch or wait until Tuesday to listen to the whole thing in its entirety? Look, we're trying to bring the people what we can bring them.
I think like a show like this, you can't go wrong by listening. You always pick up more the second time.
Exactly.
I would say like 90% of our listeners listen at least 3 times to each episode.
So
they download it once, but they listen.
Okay. All right. I was going to make sure, because then it would totally blow our numbers. It would blow our numbers out. But hey, watch, listen, we're going, rather than going deep, not that I have that problem, I'm going wide.
Width, not.
Girth. We're trying to take the podcast girth. So watch now, listen later. You'll have fun regardless. But Nicky Pap's the man.
Yeah, anyway. So I had my neighbor actually mentioned something to me. He said, "Thank you for parking in your driveway," because he had spent 8 hours shoveling 7 feet of snow off of his car, pulled out, and then he said when he got home, somebody had taken his spot. I guess maybe he doesn't have a driveway.
Okay, yeah.
But yeah, he thanked me for parking in my driveway, and I was like, well, I don't want to deal with parking in the street.
Number one, right? You have
That's
a
the
driveway.
I lived in South Philly as well, and
Yeah.
parking is
It's a nightmare.
it changes your life when you don't have.
Yeah,
to do it.
my wife's biggest dream now is to have a house with a driveway. Yeah.
You guys should move next door.
Not happening. So, because imagine we want to
do
keep
the podcast every day.
we want to stay friendly with our neighbors. If we live next to each other, it should be shooting shots at each other from the Hatfields and the McCoys. But yeah, so, and I think this probably happens in a lot of cities, and where these kind of issues can happen is somebody says a spot. I'm driving around at 10 o'clock at night after teaching. Now I pull up and it looks like there's a spot and there's a trash can there.
Yeah.
What I do sometimes if I'm walking past where that spot was, is I don't take the spot.
You piss on it.
No. I just move their stuff so that somebody else takes it. But the issue with that is the next guy that parks there, if their car has been defaced, it's because I caused it. So I had this.
You could cause a new viral shooting.
Yeah, and I don't want to do that. I don't want to cause any viral shootings or any kind of viruses, to be honest with you. So speaking of, there's a nice segue. We seem to be very clear of COVID at the school.
I don't think Bill Bell had it.
I don't think he had a.
Yeah, I think
he tested positive,
which doesn't mean anything,
right?
These days,
because they said that his doctor said it could have been an old infection or whatever.
I've heard things, and who knows what to believe anymore. But I've heard things that say like anytime you've had a cold, you've had a coronavirus, and that could be affecting the tests that they're giving.
Okay,
the tests are very inaccurate.
Yeah, so
like Elon Musk had tweeted that he took like 3 tests in a row, and it was like, or 4, it was like positive, negative, from the exact same place and the exact same style of test.
Well, what was interesting is that his live-in girlfriend didn't catch it. Mm-hmm. Nobody at the school caught it that we're aware of anyway. And so, look, he did the mandatory quarantine. He'll be back tomorrow. He's been feeling great, but it was one of those things where, again, we talked about it last week, but just having to call everybody and getting everybody back in, it's scary trying to, get that whole thing going, but we're back. And then we had to deal with this nor'easter a couple days ago. Yeah. Did you shut your school down for 2 days? 2 days. Yeah. Yeah. What was that second day? The second day was all about. What was that?
Oh, it's bad out here. I couldn't get out of my.
Okay.
I couldn't get out of here until Wednesday.
All right. Okay. All right. So there's one of the drawbacks of living in your little hamlet. What's this town called?
Glenside. Oh wait.
Whoa.
We gotta pick that out. I don't want anybody to know where I live. Yeah, it is a nice little town, but the street, it just took a while to get plowed.
Okay.
It snowed up until it was snowing on Tuesday, wasn't it?
I know, but I opened up on Tuesday. I could get South Philly was pretty well.
Yeah, we weren't around here. And my car is terrible in the snow, so I've had to change my lifestyle since I got this car.
I'm telling you, get those new tires, bro. I'm gonna help your life. The Redesteins, they're from the Netherlands.
Okay.
The Netherlands. So
the nether regions.
Yes. So keeping spots. We talked about that. So this show's a complete mess because I don't even have.
I think it's great. See, you're too self-conscious. Stop looking at yourself in the thing.
No, I'm looking at the notes that I have up. I know.
Cover yourself so you can't see yourself.
I know how handsome I am.
I don't want to see you either.
No, I don't want to see you. So. I'm pretty interested in knowing if you watched the UFC last night.
Of course I did.
I haven't watched the UFC in a bit. I was at let's call him a super fan groupie, Steve Wilson's house.
Oh, really?
Yeah. The birthday. He did a great job of coordinating a birthday party for his son. Mm-hmm. I get to the movie theater. He'd actually not rented the theater.
The movie theaters are open?
The movie theaters are open. You can rent a whole theater. You can get
Schools are closed? Movie theaters are open?
Yes.
Interesting. So you can have a kid's birthday. In a small.
Unless you're Steve Wilson and you didn't actually book the party where you thought you booked it, which was interesting. And then we go back.
He certainly is a hellfish left.
And we went back to his house and the kids hung out and watched the UFC. The last 2 fights of the night last 2 fights of the evening were pretty impressive.
Yeah, crazy.
With who's the kid? Sandhagen. Wow.
Yeah, I mean, it sucks to see Frankie Edgar lose like that.
And it looked like he was stiff.
Yeah.
Bad knocked out.
I think that was like the first shot that was thrown, basically, wasn't it?
First one was landed, possibly.
Yeah. Super impressive. And it just sucks to see
Because the
A
dude's
guy like Frank Yeager.
he's a warrior, nice guy.
I was listening to Kyle and Blonde Fighters podcast. Burning the Book. Did we mention that yet?
We did. So it'll be the second time.
It's like my
second plug.
It's my. I like listening to that more than I like listening to us.
You don't listen to us.
That's true.
All right.
But I do. I really like their show. But they made a great point about how it's insane how long both Frank Yeager and Overeem have been fighting at the top. So Frank Yeager's been fighting since Affliction days.
Yes.
From Affliction to Reebok. That's
insane. And the crazy part is that had he beaten Sandhagen, like they said, he'd have been maybe in line for a title shot.
Easily.
Yeah.
I think Sandhagen will get the next one.
Well, I mean, it would almost be impossible for him not to get he's had some impressive that spinning wheel kick to Marlon Moraes' head.
Yeah.
The crazy knee that he just hit. So I didn't see the Aljamain Sterling, but superfan groupie Steve Wilson said he watched it, and he said that it was pretty one-sided on Sterling's part that how easily he defeated Sandhagen.
Yeah. That was a while ago, wasn't it?
I'm not sure.
I think it was a good amount of time ago. But yeah, it's going to be. I think Peter Yan will smoke Aljamain, and then
Peter Yan versus
Sandhagen will be a more interesting fight.
All right,
I think.
And I was kind of surprised at how long Overeem lasted in that fight because he got clipped a couple times. He got clipped once where I thought he was going to get finished, and he was able to compose himself. But my history with watching his fights is when he gets hurt, he seems to shell up and continue to get hurt.
Yeah, it's a good point. But I don't think Volkov's not. He's not like a big power puncher.
Okay.
He like adds up. He's like a precise, accurate guy, and he just kind of adds up. But yeah, you're right. He did have him on the fence a couple times where he was just kind of shelled up. But is Volkov super impressive? I guess he might be the next after Stipe's fighting Ngannou. And then it might be.
That's a title fight, Stipe and Ngannou, yeah?
Stipe's the champ.
This would be it's a rematch because Stipe fought him before, right? And just wrestled it. Like how everybody beats Ngannou.
I think only one other guy beat him, right?
Well, DC and Stipe.
DC never fought Ngannou.
What other big black guy am I thinking of?
Derek Lewis, but he didn't wrestle him. It might have been not Walt Harris.
Whatever.
Curtis Blades might have beat him years and years
ago.
ago.
So I'm mixing up some fighters here. Nah, Kai Serm, this is what it's all about. Yes, it is, my friend. This is exactly what it's all about.
I think you should listen. Everybody should listen to Burning the Boats, Kyle Sermonera's
show. It's a third plug.
Just because of his, they have a sponsor.
Yes.
His commercial in the beginning. Brilliant.
Nice. Yeah. I'm trying to get him to sponsor our show.
Kyle?
Yeah. His BJJ Fanatics DVD to sponsor us. And then we'll give the Ninja Rob listeners maybe a discount or just direct access.
Did you get his DVD?
No.
I did.
I don't support my friends.
I did.
Yeah. I'm looking
I
for
haven't watched it yet, but
I'm looking for a digital download. If you'll give it to me. Or do you have the pass? Maybe you give me your digital download? No,
I can't do that.
Why not? It's like flow. Is it going to be flow grappling all over again?
Yeah. It's even worse with BJJ Fanatics. You could put money directly in his pocket.
Like he needs it. Guys,
he doesn't. It's not that he needs it, but he deserves it.
That's true. I could tell you. You know what? You're right. So going back to Frankie Edgar, where does he go from here? Like retirement?
He should retire.
I think so. Right? Like the people around him. What more does he have to prove in the sport unless he's really dying to be the 135-pound champ?
He's done enough. He's had enough amazing fights. He's been a champ. He doesn't need to do anything else.
Hopefully he's set financially.
I would imagine he is, but I don't. I bet he won't. I bet it seems to be. It's very rare that a fighter leaves when they should.
Right.
Especially a guy like him who's such a competitor. I think it's gonna be really hard for him to stop doing it. So I think it's going to get worse and worse for him. He might like go back and forth between wins and losses, but I think his losses will be bad, and he'll probably have some cool wins, like he'll have some good fights. But they should match him up with he shouldn't be matched up with the top guys. If he wants to keep fighting, they should match him up with guys like BJ Penn, like guys from his generation, basically.
Yeah, but do you really want to see him beat BJ Penn again?
No, I don't. I think he should retire.
Right. And I think the people around him should probably be giving him this advice that, hey, it's probably time to retire.
Yeah, but I don't think. I don't really know him that well, but.
So what I think it is the bigger issue is the long-term damage that his style of fighting has, because he's been in some wars.
His 3 Gray Maynard fights.
Yeah, they
They could have like taken
knocked years off of
yeah.
his life. Yeah, yeah, agreed.
Just those
Agreed.
fights. That doesn't
Yeah.
include, you know, Ortega knocking him out or just the other wars he's been in.
Yeah, I think the knockouts were probably less harmful to him
Than the wars.
those wars. Yeah.
Yeah.
And he probably spars all the time, or at least did for a
Mhm.
long time. So
He was, I mean, he would train when me and him fought our first MMA fights on the same show.
sport fighting
Sport fighting, yeah. And he came and trained with us at Balance
for a little bit.
for a
Yeah,
little
I
while
grappled
after
with
that.
him one time. Yeah.
And he came with his buddy Chris Ligori, and like we would all train. We'd do tons of like rounds, like probably like 10 rounds of sparring and jiu-jitsu, and then they would always be at least an extra hour while we were sitting around talking. They were doing extra pad work or grappling, and it was crazy.
Apparently, Kyle's saying it's a write-off if he sponsors our show. Well, great. Let's get our accountants working on it. So, yeah, you know, but at a certain point, that's a rate of diminishing return, right? Like early in your career, you could put that kind of level of work in,
Yeah.
and it really shows benefits. But then later on, like with Max Holloway changing his idea of sparring, like he no longer spars.
Yeah.
Right. So I think that'll hopefully lengthen his career.
There's been a good amount of guys saying that recently. Like they're like Cowboys started saying that, less sparring. Max Holloway.
The kid used to be at Militich, and then Robbie Lawler, or so less sparring or safe sparring that they're doing. Because look, getting into sparring, I think you have to. There's just no ways around having. You can't have the first time you're punched in the face be in the cage in a level of competition. Yeah. But as you progress, it seems like we're getting to a point where less sparring, as you only probably need a little bit to bring your timing back.
Yeah.
So, speaking of timing, I'm interested in this pretty big match with Nicky Ryan versus Roberto Jimenez.
Yeah.
And I think I'm kind of interested in it because Nicky Ryan is like a wonder kid, right?
Is he?
Well, he's been touted as such.
That's what they say. He is.
But he doesn't have the accolades that
right.
And this is nobody in this room has won ADCC either. But what I'm saying is, like, you know,
I got as far as he did.
Okay. So I haven't, but you know, they hyped this kid up, and clearly he's very, very good.
Yeah.
You know, and he could possibly be world class, but he hasn't won the events to prove that.
He hasn't competed in the events to prove it.
Well, he's done ADCC.
But so there's a huge the edge that Jimenez has is that Jimenez is competing nonstop.
And he's competing in everything, in all
against anybody in
any rule set, seems like.
Nicky Ryan is training and competes like once or twice a year. Like he did, his last match was against a guy that had never done jiu-jitsu before.
Oh, against the wrestler guy. Yeah.
But then you have Jimenez just competed this weekend against
at BJJ Stars, right?
Against somebody.
Azaki Bayanez.
Yeah. Same. It happened before because Nicky Ryan submitted one of the Rotolo brothers.
Yes.
And like the ADCC trials like a year or two ago, and they fought again, and the Rotolo brother like smoked him.
Right.
Like just put a pace on him that he was like, you could see Rotolo was used to that style in the competition.
Right.
And Nicky Ryan just wasn't ready for the just sort of crushing pressure that the guy put on.
So that's what I was going to kind of get into, because look, maybe Roberto Jimenez doesn't have the ADCC titles or the, you know, like the GI World Championships yet, but it seems like he should be the guy getting more press than Nicky Ryan.
I think so.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, how do you see this match playing out between these two kids?
I think Jimenez will beat him.
Do you think Jimenez can submit him?
Yes.
Okay.
But Jimenez's weakness is leg locks. So
I would hope that he's working them, right?
I mean, you would hope, but it's still, I just don't think his most of his competition is in these other
right
like IBJJF style thing. So he doesn't.
But a lot of guys have found success in the leg lock or the heel hook bolo counter to the back take.
He's got a great berimbolo.
So, and he's got a really good back take as well.
I would bet on Jimenez, but it's not because I think he's necessarily technically better. I think he's just he's got more competition experience. That's what I'm basing it on.
Yeah, I would.
He's busier.
I think you're right. You know, like I'm not going to disagree with you on that one. I think he's busier, and he's gone against stiffer competition.
100%.
Right? He's going against Craig Jones. He's going against Keenan Cornelius. He actually beat Keenan Cornelius when they went. It was in the gi, but
his first match as a black belt.
Yeah. So, and Azaki Banyays. So I think he's competing against tougher guys on a more regular basis.
Yeah, I think that's a huge advantage. And Nicky Ryan's also moving up in weight. Like Nicky Ryan's put on some weight recently,
Yes,
and
we call that bulking up.
yeah, so he might not be. Who knows what his stamina is going to be like
Right.
at a higher weight? And whereas like the other cool thing about Jimenez is he fights like everybody. He's like 175 pounds, 168 pounds, something like that. He's pretty light. He's gone up against Nicky Rod and beat him. He's gone up against
That's right. Yeah.
Hulk. He goes up against anybody.
Excuse me. But yeah, so that's where I give that kid credit as well, is that he's willing. He's almost like Craig Jones, right? Well, Craig Jones seems to compete in whatever rule set you throw at him.
He's got more of a fighting spirit.
You think?
Seems like it.
Yeah, or they just want to, or they're just tailoring their game to a certain specific rule set, and they're just looking for victory. Maybe
he's got more of he wants to compete more. I don't think Nicky Ryan doesn't seem like he likes to compete.
You don't think you think
It doesn't seem like it.
He's being forced?
I don't know if he's being forced.
Like a North Korean soldier?
But he doesn't compete. He's like he did ADCC. He did Who's Number One.
Well, could that,
I'm saying in the last couple years.
But so a lot of times, right? You know, and I've seen this with guys that think that they're big shots and they're not. They're just like local dudes. They're like, oh yeah, I only do IBJJF.
Yeah.
Hey, motherfucker, you should be doing NAGA. You should be doing Grappler's Quest.
Everything.
You should, if you're a competitor, you compete in it all. And that's how you're going to get good at competition.
Yeah.
For the most part, when Gordon Ryan or Gary Tonin or those dudes, what were they doing? You saw them everywhere.
Right. Nicky Ryan, you haven't seen him anywhere.
Not really. Not that I can recall.
I've seen him do, I know, I'm sure he's done like other ones, but he's done like ADCC trials, ADCC, and a couple super fights. And I'm saying in the last couple of years. I know he probably did a little bit more when he was younger. I saw an old video where he lost to Nakapon.
Okay.
Nakapon footlocking, but I think he was like a white belt or blue belt.
Right, and I watched him against
he was like 14.
One of those brothers that are in New York, the Meows. I saw him against one of those guys too. So, but Jimenez is competing all the time,
nonstop.
Yeah,
gi, no gi, any rule set.
Yeah,
all over the country and the world, basically.
So, do you think his upside is going to be bigger, or
for sure? I don't think Nicky Ryan's going to go anywhere.
Really?
I think he's amazing at jiu-jitsu. I've seen like, footage of him rolling stuff. Right. I think he's amazing. I just don't think competitively he's going to go anywhere.
So what would
I don't think you can.
If we were had a direct line to Gordon Ryan and John Danaher, what would we tell him? Say, hey guys, we think you're messing up Nicky's career. This is what you need to do. I'm not saying. I think
Nicky Ryan has the career that he wants to have.
No, I'm proposing that. Say they. All right. How about this? They came to us. Mm-hmm. Oddly, we're getting a three-way phone call. Mm-hmm. It's John Danaher, John Danaher, Gordon Ryan, and the Ninja Rob podcast.
How come Nicky Ryan's not involved in the call?
Apparently, it's not that important to him.
Yeah.
But these guys come to us and they say, "Hey, Mr. Tim,
Coach Tim?
Coach Tim, Professor Marco, what should we be doing for Nicky Ryan's career?
Get him to compete."
But they're going to say, well, get him to compete. He's done ADCC.
Compete more and he'll win ADCC.
So compete more. Do you think
it's just the law of averages? If you compete more, you'll win more.
I don't think you understand statistics, but go ahead.
The more he competes, the more he'll win.
You think so?
In general, that like a guy that's really good. And
all right.
When he competes, he usually wins.
There's the caveat. The guy's got to be really good.
The more he does, the more he will win.
So you would say to him, "Hey, guys, get off the high horse."
I'd say he's on a high horse.
I'm just maybe trying to get
You're
a
telling
beef.
Me what I'm going to say.
I'm trying to make a beef with the Death Squad.
The Danaher Death Squad.
They're in Puerto Rico. What are they going to do?
I'm not scared of them. I'm just saying I don't have again. We saw the video of the guy. I don't want Gordon Ryan or John Danaher to show up with a AR-15.
You're armed to the teeth. I'm walking by. Every room in your house has got some sort of weapon.
Yeah.
Kukris, you got everything. Like you're
Kukris.
Yeah, one of that goofy knife you had over there. Yeah. So yeah, I would agree with Tim's assessment of how they're handling how John and Gordon are handling Nicky Ryan's career. Is that
I don't think he has a career. I think he competes when he wants to.
He's got a reputation for sure.
He's got a great reputation.
He's got a great reputation, and the issue with what could occur is that if they make him compete in smaller shows, if he doesn't dominate, then that take some luster or some shine off of that reputation.
But you like a guy like Jimenez. Jimenez competes nonstop. I've seen him he's been submitted several times.
Yes.
He goes out there, he gets submitted, he wins, he loses, but he's continuing to get better. So he's focusing on getting better to become a world champion. Nicky Ryan, according to you, is focused on his reputation and trying to guard it at all costs. So if I had to choose between the two of those guys to have on my team, I would choose Jimenez. Even if Nicky Ryan could submit Alberto Jimenez a million times in competition, I put my money on
Jimenez is the long play.
Yeah.
You'd short Nicky Ryan.
Yes.
All right. So we're shorting Nicky Ryan and
Call GameStop.
and we're going to be buying stock in Jimenez. So I'm sorry, I lost my notes. Oh, there they are. More competition coming up locally. Now, have you ever had your guys compete in a smoker, like a Muay Thai smoker? I know you do fight simulations at your school when they're getting ready.
I've never done that.
No.
No.
What do you think of the idea of the
I think
smoker?
they're fucking awesome.
Yeah.
I trained at a school for a little while where they brought in. He had like other affiliate schools, and he brought in basically he brought in the whole other school, and they just matched people up according to like basic size.
Okay.
And if you wanted to fight, it wasn't like he's a blue belt, he's a purple belt. It wasn't like that. It was just like, you want to fight, you're about his size.
150.
Sign a waiver. Yeah. And then no weigh-ins. Just like you guys are close in size. Let's fight.
Oh, they just looked at like body
and
mass.
They put him in a cage and they had him go full-on MMA fights.
Elbows, knees.
I don't remember elbows. They might have said no elbow. They were just wearing the small MMA gloves and guys were getting knocked out. It was amazing. And some of those guys went on to become like legit fighters.
Wow. Yeah, it's a little.
But there was no. It was. I wouldn't say it was a scrimmage.
All right.
It was. Everybody was cool. It was very friendly. It wasn't like no money was involved.
Right.
It was just like we're gonna get together and train, but we're gonna train basically at 100% intensity for real.
Yeah, and I think so. I have at least one guy, maybe two, that want to do, some sort of striking competition. Mm-hmm. So Jackson at North Star is putting on a smoker. So I contacted him being May 1st. So I'm excited.
Isn't that illegal?
It's like a sparring session.
So I don't think you should call it smoker on air.
I didn't call it smoker. He called it smoker.
Well, you're participating in it.
I'm not participating in it.
Well, you might get Jackson arrested.
Hey, man. Hopefully he's got an attorney.
You don't have a problem with that?
No.
So, okay.
Well, I don't have a problem with calling it what he calls it.
Okay. Is he advertising it?
Yeah, it was on Facebook. That's how I found out about it. Yeah, he didn't private message me and say, don't say anything on this podcast that's going wide and deep. Yeah. So we're getting ready so this is great because we're getting ready for the Hellfish Team Tournament. Yeah. Full steam ahead on that training. It's going to be the crown jewel.
All right.
This title, is there going to be a team title?
It's a team tournament.
Yeah,
there's only a team title. You mean a trophy?
Yeah.
Yes.
Like Thanos' glove?
I don't know yet.
Thanos' glove.
All right.
Awesome. Because it's 5 participants. A jewel for each.
There's only 4 teams, so is there?
I don't know.
Yeah, 4 teams, 5 people on each team.
So any more solidifying of the rules with points and that kind of thing?
We're gonna do the first 3 points, last 3 no points.
And what about what's mount, what's knee and stomach?
I need to find a ref.
I thought you had one.
I did, but he can't do it. But I think I have a good choice, a highly experienced ref at a very high level, who is impartial to everybody.
I'm still lodging this protest. I'll lodge it the day of the tournament as well, with the referee himself.
So that's one of the things is like if there is unnecessarily abrasive coaching, you could cost your fighter some points.
Wait, I can abrade and lose points.
You could, if you wanted to.
Well, I don't want to.
I don't think you'd want to do that.
No, I definitely no. Because these guys are working. These guys are working hard. We're going through all kinds of scenarios. We're ready.
Good.
If it was tomorrow, we'd be ready.
Enthusiastic coaching is great, but like
that's all I do.
Messing with the ref.
What do you say? What is messing with the ref?
Messing, So basically, you can't talk to the ref.
Can I point out? Hey, ref, that's 2.
No.
I can't point out to him when he's made a mistake.
So you can say that.
That's a good 2. That's a good 2.
And then you might lose 1.
So I can't. So if I'm coaching my guy,
no, you can say it's 2. But if it gets if you start berating the ref,
This
tend to do.
I feel like there's this is
This rule was put in place for you.
yes. This is the yes.
100%.
All right. Well, as long I'm okay with this, as long as you don't coach.
That doesn't make any sense.
Yeah,
it makes zero sense.
Because you know what I'll do is I'll show up to the tournament and like some sort of Soviet bloc team will refuse to compete.
Okay, then it's fine. I would. Yeah, I mean, that would be a shame for your students.
No, it wouldn't.
They wouldn't.
They'd stand tall.
They would not get the chance to lose honorably.
Lose? Yeah. Have you even set your team yet?
Me?
Yeah.
Of course.
Who? Me? You sound like Beetlejuice. Come on.
I gotta.
Yeah.
I have
who's who?
One or two weight classes I still gotta fill. But
who's who? Okay, give us a rundown. Who do you got? I sent you a list of who I have, but yet
I'm organizing the tournament.
Wait. See, so here becomes another issue is I have to give you, I'm directly competing my team against your team. You know who's on my team, yet you won't tell me.
I don't know who's on your team because your list is barely readable.
Legible,
yeah. Legible. Barely legible. It was like one weight class had 5 names. So you really again, like you said, it's like you're hiding them in the midst of everyone.
No, but the guys that count, the purple, brown, blacks, there's one name per weight class.
Okay.
So who are your 4, 5? Come on. Come on.
Maybe next week. Maybe next
week.
See,
this is wholly unfair.
Maybe next week.
This is not we're number one, not worried.
You should okay.
Yeah.
No, I have a great team.
All homegrown? Okay.
I mean,
all right.
Mostly
homegrown.
Everyone trains at Hellfish.
Paying student?
Yes.
At Hellfish.
In one way or another.
I want to see they have to show their contracts.
They have to show their membership.
Yeah.
No. We don't do contracts.
Oh, that's one of the benefits of training at Hellfish.
No contracts here.
Man, why not?
We don't need those to keep people.
Really?
Yeah.
So you're not gonna share who's on your team. All right.
Next week I will.
Okay, fair enough.
This is great. Like we'll get people interested to tune in next week.
To live.
I think Kyle wrote something else.
He did, but he said it was a write-off.
Oh.
It's a write-off.
Okay.
Yeah. So hopefully this is not something that you have happen at your school, but have you ever reached out to an old student who's left your school and training somewhere else and berated them and leave them a nasty voicemail or use racist terms against them?
Oh, racist terms?
All the time, right?
No, I've never done it.
Not directly to them.
No, I've never, I can't even spell racist terms.
Gotcha. You don't, those utterances don't come out of your mouth. So apparently there's a school out in San Francisco or some, Northern California that this pretty
big
good
school in San Francisco.
Big school. Yeah.
This is public information. You don't need to.
Yeah. Okay.
I don't like to name names.
Oh.
I like you to name names.
Okay. Well, it's a half crazy school. I mean, I read about it on the, not that somebody private messaged me about the thing, but I read about it on, I think it was BJJ Eastern Europe or something like that. But it was super interesting. Like what in your mind would drive an instructor to call I don't even know if this even makes a difference. It's a young woman's dad. So
this might go into something else we're going to talk about. Maybe he had some sort of inappropriate relationship with the younger woman.
Oh, we're going to talk about that?
It's a question.
Oh, it was?
I put it in the email.
I haven't looked.
We got a text and I took the text and emailed.
Do you remember it?
We can check on your thing.
All right. But so go ahead. So you think he may?
I'm not saying he did. Yeah. I'm just saying that could be a reason, that could be a reason why a guy would be that fucking crazy.
Yeah, that's just awful. Mm-hmm. To call somebody and say those, number one, say those things in general, but number two, to direct it at a former student.
But all that does is show that family made the right choice to leave.
Yeah. So
all news is good news.
You think?
Mm-hmm.
So we got 2 questions.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe I think there's a couple on Instagram too. So we might have we cover this. Did you read the article about the 35-year-old who was promoted to red belt?
I think so.
In some sort of so the guy, his instructor was part of a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu association in Brazil and then broke off on his own. and now promoted a guy to red belt.
That's great. I mean,
Who cares?
who cares?
Yeah. It's
I
like
mean, you could promote yourself to red belt.
I likely wouldn't right now as the
Right.
guy I'm constructed now, but yeah, I see what you're saying.
Yeah, I mean, it's dumb. I wouldn't do it. You wouldn't do it. Nobody that really does jujitsu. I mean, maybe this guy's amazing. I don't know. Maybe he's that good.
That he deserves to be a red
Yeah.
belt.
But I doubt it. So
Yeah, and these are people that read their own Facebook posts and get hype off of them. You know, like these guys are hyping themselves, and they're usually in such an insulated society or group that they're
gonna be. These are like the death touch people in traditional martial arts.
Yes,
you know what I mean?
agreed.
Like,
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I mean, like people get bent out of shape about like, oh, it's ruining the sport and this and that. The sport's doing enough to ruin itself. It doesn't need these
I think
guys.
the sport's doing great.
Yeah. No, I'm saying it tongue in cheek about the sport ruining itself. But what I mean is, these idiots that do this kind of stuff don't affect it.
No.
It doesn't affect jiu-jitsu, you know. So we got to.
But it's a fun thing to. It's a fun like headline to read.
Right, exactly. I mean? But there's people. I can't believe he's doing that. Yeah. Why? Blah blah blah.
Yeah, if you're
red belt
second, you need to.
Yeah, you need to check your outrage.
Yeah.
Right, Tim? People need to check their outrage.
Of course, yeah.
All the time. So we got a question a couple weeks ago from Adam Reggie Mills. I forgot to cover last week. He goes, unprompted question for the podcast. Have you read any good books lately? Any books that you would consider to be required reading before you die? Tim.
Books that would be required reading?
Yes.
No, but I'm reading it's called Executive Outcomes.
Go on.
It's about a guy that started a private military company.
Blackwater.
No, it's a South African guy.
Boer.
No, he's actually a British guy that lived in South Africa.
Mercenary.
Yeah, it was a private military company. But I think it's hilarious because his company was called Executive Outcomes. So it's like, basically what he would like.
It's like a state that's right to work, which basically means it's right to fire.
Kinda. He went all over Africa and some other countries and would fight wars for like governments that don't like. There's
for governments or for private entities as well.
I think the way it turns out is it's through the government, but paid for by the private entities.
Gotcha. Funded by,
corrupting,
sponsored by.
Yeah. But it's very interesting to see. It goes into his like military history and then how he started the company. It's an interesting book. But that's the only one.
So do you have any books? Because I'm not reading much right now. Because I wish I was reading more. To be honest with you, I just don't read enough. But would you have any book that you've read in your past that you're like, hey, you should before you die, you should read this?
Search for Meaning.
Yeah.
Everybody should read that. I read that like probably once a year, or I listen to it. I should say.
Is that Viktor Frankl?
Viktor Frankl, yeah. Yeah, it's one of the best books ever, and it's pretty short. I think even like the audiobook is like 3, maybe 4 hours.
Okay, so a couple of rides back and forth to work, and you're good to go.
Yeah, but that's
now you mainly do audiobooks though, right?
Usually, yeah.
All right. I'm not reading anything right now. I'm reading a lot of news.
That's not good for you, man.
But I'm reading the news I want to read. I'm not reading.
That's even worse.
What are you talking about? Reading about?
You just read the stuff that agrees with.
What that insulates me from all the nonsense that's going on.
Okay.
The things I'm interested in, not the things that like, not things that they're trying to scare me of.
So you're like on the Daily Stormer a lot.
I'm not even sure what that is. What is the Daily Stormer?
It's a famous white supremacist website.
Oh yeah, how do you know about that?
Matt Richmond told me about it.
Oh, okay. So for me, if there was a book that I would recommend everybody reading, turned it into a movie. It's by John Krakauer. It's called Into the Wild. It's the story of Walt McCandless taking that trip to Alaska.
Christopher McCandless.
Christopher, I thought it was Walt. I don't know who Walt.
You're thinking of Walt Whitman.
Maybe. So McCandless is his last name. I believe he went to Baylor. One day he just decides he's going to burn all of his worldly possessions and take off and goes working across the country till he makes it to Alaska and unfortunately winds up dying. But for me, why I think that's important is because personally, it was the book that I read that really blew my world wide open of like the closest thing I'd ever heard of anybody doing anything like that is my dear friend Nate Carabello when he decided to move to New Hampshire to learn how to build wooden boats using techniques from the like 17 and 1800s. I'm like,
That's super cool.
Yeah, unbelievably cool now, especially now when I think about it, that he just as a 22-year-old dude decided that was what he was going to do. And I couldn't wrap my head around him doing that at the time.
Yeah.
It was just like, no, dude, you're from South Philly. You're supposed to be here. Even though we had all traveled and been around the world, but we always had that kind of home base to go to. And when I read this book, I really became enamored with what McCandless was doing, not the outcome, obviously,
Yeah.
but the fact that he burned the boat, literally. Like he burned all of his possessions and lived off of his sweat and labor, and didn't. The bigger idea of the book was not, and you've said this in the past, and we talked about this on Lex Fridman's podcast. It's not up anymore. He's too famous for us, but it's not that what other people think isn't important. It's what you think has to be more important than what they think. And that's a concept that I picked up from you years ago, where you don't care what people think. And I say, yeah, you're right. I don't care what people think. But now it's a little bit different.
We all do.
We all do. But this guy truly, it was probably to some degree important what his family thought of it, but it was more important for him to lead this life.
I saw the movie. I never read the book.
Yeah, the books, I could tear through it, like every 6 months. I think it's phenomenal.
I think my lovely wife Nicolette has read, I think, 50 books in the last month or something like that.
Wow.
Something insane.
Yeah, she seems like the smart one in this house.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. We got a question from Sheslay. She wants to know how does she get gear? How do you get one of those shirts?
If he sends me his address, I'll send him a shirt.
Sheslay.
She
send us your.
I thought you said he slay.
No, Sheslay.
If she sends me her address, I'll send. We don't. They're unisex, so she'll be all right.
All right, awesome. And
size too. She looks like a pretty buxom woman from what I've seen.
Buxom?
Yeah.
All right. So, under anonymous, Tim and Marco, in a recent news, a local BJJ instructor, Razor's Edge, has been arrested for crimes against a child. In the past year, there has been accusations of sexual assault, abuse, etc. among the BJJ and Muay Thai community. Of course, a child is a victim 100%, the perp's fault. What should students do if they suspect this by an instructor towards a child? Also, if the other person is an adult, what are the other students' obligations? Sometimes you can give a fuck when it's not your time to give a fuck. Sincerely, Anonymous. So, especially when it comes to kids, there's no nuance here.
Yeah.
This is the authorities need to be called. And if you have the ability to restrain whoever he is until the authorities come, you restrain whoever it is till the authorities come. So when it comes to kids, there's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. Like I even with people that aren't instructors, I was in a situation where a little kid said he had to go to the bathroom, and an older kid went in with him to supervise him. I didn't like the way that looked.
Yeah.
So I went in to supervise the older kid to make sure that there was nothing going on. And there was nothing going on, but you know what? I'm watching the watcher on that one.
Yeah. That's so I read a lot of like true crime, and I watch a lot of stuff about like serial killers and just like a lot of fucked up, like just like the worst people in the world. And I think it's super important that people keep an eye out. Like I'm like sort of like I think everybody's a serial killer.
Right. Well, by the way your house is laid out,
I just assume everybody is like out to like hurt somebody else. So I think it's rare that you would actually ever have that thought if it's not something going on. You know what I mean? Like I assume it, but I don't think it until I see proof of it. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So like I would never I watch my kid students to see how they're acting. Like if I were to see like a kid acting a certain way, like acting sexual in class, like I would immediately like call the cops, be like, this kid is doing like some weird shit. You might want to like look at the parents or something. Or like a little kid shouldn't know those kinds of things.
Right. Right,
I mean?
for sure.
And I mean, maybe that's a little bit.
It's a bit extreme,
away,
but
it's a red flag when you see certain.
But you're better off being wrong than right.
Right. And this story that recently happened, in one of the articles I read, it said the mother of the girl had suspected something and asked them both about it, and they both denied it. But I think if you suspect something to the point where you're willing to ask the people that are involved, that alone is enough to like hire a private investigator to look.
Right.
Especially if it's your own kid.
Yeah, exactly.
So yeah, you have I think you have a duty, especially as someone whose job is to protect kids and
Teach them how to protect themselves. Yeah, yeah. And
Um,
if they're not at the point where they have the capacity to protect themselves,
but the problem is the person that's accused of doing it was the person in charge of.
that's the
You know what I mean?
issue is that these people that have this level of trust or uh like those positions where they're able to gain a family's trust, or in this case his wife's trust, right, which is very sickening. uh like what do so this is, I don't want to say this is somebody asleep at the wheel, but
I mean, it definitely is. If she suspected it, turns out to be true. You know, she, kind of was able to put it in the back of her head.
right. So now shifting gears, when it's not an adult, well, if it's not an adult and it's clearly a sex crime, then I think you need to intervene, right? If you have proof that there's a sex crime going on. But most of the time you don't, when it's an instructor student relationship that goes south, or there's problems, or he's or she as the instructor are peeling off students to date, and then it goes.
Yeah, I mean, even in those cases, everybody knows who those people are.
Right.
It's stuff's a lot more obvious if people are just honest with themselves. You can see who to watch out for and who not to if you pay attention and you're honest with yourself. You don't just deny it.
But also everybody taking more personal responsibility for their actions, right?
Yeah, especially the abusers need to take responsibility and stop abusing people.
But also when the abuser has a community that he works in, and he has that reputation in the community, but is still able to, it seems like, pull those things off in that community.
That's one of the reasons why. So that's the people you should watch out for the most are the people that are around. This is with kids, are the people that are always around kids. So like I can't imagine a situation where I would tell a parent, like, I need to talk to your kid alone. Or like I need to be alone with any student in class. Like when I like the kids, like they come in, they do class.
Right.
I don't want to hang out with them.
So I have a rule that there can't be one kid and one adult in the room at the same time.
That's a great rule.
Yeah. There can't be any of that one-on-one, like a parent. Well, unless it's their parent.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. You can't just, if it's just me at the school, you can't just drop your kid off. Yeah. Right. You got to wait till another parent shows up or another kid. I need some sort of, other set of eyes, checks and balances.
Yeah. That's like, that kind of stuff. It's kind of sad, but you have to watch the people that are around kids a lot.
Yeah.
Especially guys.
Especially, and for no good reason.
Right.
Another
book that everybody should read that'll change your life is The Gift of Fear. That's a great book. Especially anybody that teaches or trains in martial arts and has any interest in self-defense, it's like required reading.
So I know you said guy, and I don't want to make this into like a sexist thing, but my wife and I were looking for a preschool about over 10 years ago. And we went into this one, and everything about the preschool was great, except for the guy that ran it.
Yeah.
There was just something off about him.
That's what the book, The Gift of Fear, is all about. It's about trusting your intuition. Like that sense that you had, there was something off about him, is like your ancient instincts kicking in, saying like your brain is picking up a million different things that you're not aware of. And it gives you like a spidey sense that's like, I don't like this guy.
So
you can't even verbalize what it is, but.
Oh, I could have verbalized it. I'm not going to verbalize it now, but I could. I'm fortunate to say about 7 years later, arrested for abusing the kids at that place. Damn. And I'm not happy that we were right, but I'm happy that we didn't go there.
That's what that book, The Gift of Fear, is all about. It's about like how to like use your intuition to keep you safe. And one of the things in that book that he says is like to teach your kids, like if you're ever lost, don't go to somebody in uniform, go to a woman. Because the odds are, you go to a man, it could be a security guard that's a pedophile, or you don't know. But odds are, statistically, that a woman is not going to sexually abuse your kid or kidnap them, because that's usually something that men do.
Right.
So that's one of the biggest takeaways from that book, is to teach your kids to go find a woman, not a police officer or somebody in uniform, or a teacher.
I had that chat app open. I could have just did it right here. I'm going back and forth. Hey, we're learning on the fly here, man. This has been fun.
Wasn't so bad.
No, Next time,
hand's
hopefully, we'll have two.
killing me.
So, any idea how you injured your hand or what you pinched nerve? Maybe.
I spoke to a doctor on text message yesterday, and he said it could be an impingement, which is basically like muscle knots, like
Yeah.
pinching the nerve. And I think that's probably what it is because I think it's from squeezing arm triangles a lot.
Okay.
It's yeah.
But it's and it's but
So
no
it was-
loss of
so-
strength and mobility.
not that I know. I mean, I've been training with it.
Okay.
It feels fine when I'm doing stuff. It feels fine. It's like sitting down. Driving is like the absolute worst. Like this, like sitting down is when it gets really bad.
Really.
Yeah, sleeping. Like the last 2 nights, I woke up at like 3:34 in the morning. I had to I had to come down on the couch and find a different position to sleep in. It's terrible, but I'll be okay. I did. You know, what I did cupping last night.
You did it here?
Mhm.
Nice. I love cupping. I think cupping's
you done
awesome. Yeah.
The craziest part was my lovely wife put a cup on my back and in the one spot where like the actual
Right.
nerve is. And while it was there, my hand was fucking killing me.
Uh-huh.
And as soon as she took it off, the pain went away.
So I asked the guy that was doing the cupping was like a sports chiropractor,
Mhm.
like recovery guy. And I asked, I was like, what's cupping going to do? And if he was going to tell me it was going to align my chakras and
take the toxins out.
yeah, all this other stuff. He goes, no, he's like, we're separating the fascia from the muscle and getting some increased blood flow there to aid in recovery. I go, okay, you know what? I could buy that bullshit. Yeah.
That I really liked it. Maybe I'll do it again tonight. But
Huh?
the craziest part was how much it hurt. And as soon as the cup came off from my back, the hand pain went away.
Nice.
And then it felt good all night.
All right, folks. Well, this is our first go at it. Tim's road. I'm so jealous. Kyle got new equipment too.
Hopefully you can hear it.
Yeah.
Oh, and you know what? I got the idea of cupping from listening to Burning the Boats.
Awesome.
Third plug.
All right, kids. Fourth plug. See ya. Thank you for watching, whoever stayed along.
Peace.